Okay, I've had a closer look at your thing, and I think I have a better idea of what's going on here. I have two thoughts on this. So the first thing is just that you have a very low poly mesh, and if we look at this, what we are doing with this UV unwrap. Oops, if I go back here, we're applying a curved. We're applying a straight UV to a curved surface. So this surface is not straight, but the UV is straight because the texture that you have is straight. And that's tricky, right? Because in order to apply a straight line to a curved surface, it's going to have to bend. There's no way that you can have zero distortion here. And the reason is that in order for this curved surface to be applied on a 2D shape, there's an issue. So if you look here, the inside length of each of these segments is shorter than the outside length, and that's because it's curved. But when we do a square unwrap of the UV, you can see that that's not what we get. We have a shorter surface on the inside, or we have the same length of surface. We have on the inside and the outside, and that's different from the lengths that we have on the curved surface that we're applying this to. This is why we have stretching. And it seems like what you were trying to do is, well, there are a couple of things. So we have two types of distortion here. We have the first distortion. This is sort of like, you can see the shape of this brick is not straight. It's almost got this kind of like V shape here. It's a bit subtle, but you can see that like it's not perfectly straight. And that is a type of distortion. That first type of distortion is coming from the fact that we have a mesh that is very low poly. And you can see here, if I click on this mesh and I add a subsurf modifier and I put it on simple, when we have this at 0 levels, we have this like V-shaped distortion. And what's happening is like the UV is trying to stretch from here to here. It has to interpolate, right? What's the correct thing to do with all the stuff in the middle, but it's not having an easy time doing that because we have very low geometry. So we can add more geometry in the middle, and the UV will stretch more accurately. So if I increase the levels of subsurf, this is going to add more geometry to our mesh. So we have a denser mesh here, but you can see that the UV unwrap, this like V kind of distortion on the edges of these bricks is now gone. And the other thing that's going on here, though, which is I think the second kind of distortion you're wondering is like, how can you get straight bricks to be aligned in this curve? Because what we get here is not that, right? We get bricks that are kind of in a V shape, and it's because of this. Like the inside is shorter than the lengths of the line segments on the outside, and so all of our bricks also end up having this kind of like V shape to them. And if we look at your original image, we see the same thing, because there's no way that you can jam a straight brick into a curved geometry. And so the difference here is like you have a straight brick, but you have triangles here in the mortar. And so like the person who has made this, you can see we still get this, we still have this geometry where like the outside is wider than the inside. It's just that the bricks are not stretching, it's the mortar that's stretching. Okay, the question then is like, how would you model something like this? You could either use the UV editing tools to stretch the areas where mortar is in order to like get it to look like this. I would not do that. If it were me making this model, what I would probably do is, in order to make it the way that the guy who made this thing made it, is I would probably just make individual bricks and lay them like the way that they laid them. So you could have, you've got your bricks. You probably want to keep them aligned so that they're all on the center of this thing. I'm doing this kind of haphazardly because I'm just like trying to give an example of like what this could look like. And then I would probably make like one mesh for the mortar. So I got the texture for like one brick, and then this mortar is just a solid object. And so I just laid out all the bricks following the reference image, and it looks, a lot more like a real believable thing.